Good morning and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me, Sangha, and my fantastic co host, Morten. Today we have none other than Ben Allen with us, who is the founder and CEO of Oomph Wellness. But there are more great stories that Ben is going to share with us today. Welcome, Ben.
Hi there. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Hey Ben, you've had an incredible and probably crazy week. Although I imagine planning of selling your business is not a new one. But tell us some more. It's recent news. We've got to get this out.
Yeah, obviously super exciting news that Oomph and PCS are coming together as one organisation. I think over the period of COVID, Oomph had to fairly radically pivot from a physical business to a digital business. Very much focused on high quality digital content to improve the delivery of care, specifically around activities of wellness at the moment, both of care workers and of residents. Obviously, Oomp's got a primary focus of residents, which most people know the brand for. But what really makes that product electric is how you can integrate it with care planning software. So we've been working with PCS as one of the large players within that space on that integration for some time. And over that period, it became more and more logical that the combined business could be more than the sum of its parts. And I think that's the opportunity that we have here, is to create not just a data company over here and then a wellness company over here. It's how do you create health and wellness into every interaction between a care worker and a resident every day.
It's crazy. I can say with a bit of envy that when I saw it, I was thinking, wow, that is a very, very nice joined up business you've got there. I think you're taking one of the largest DSCR companies and the Netflix of wellness and training in this sector and joining them up. So it's a really nice proposal you've got for every care provider out in the country now. Wow.
Yeah, I think my primary focus is always how do you make a care worker's life easier. And I think there are a number of advantages. One is if you've got high quality data through the care planning software, how do you make content respond to that? That's a really good thing. That's only a really good thing if the interface is simple. And I think obviously right now, Oomph is over here, PCS over there, and we're bringing those businesses together. Um, but over time, we need to get to a place where it's single sign-on. So it's one interface for the care worker. Because ultimately, right now, a care worker needs to log into 5, 6, 7 different systems. You've got a rostering system, you've got a care planning system, you've got some EAP system. You've also so it's just a nightmare. And I think that when you bring those things together, it will mean that the care worker has got more opportunity to de-skill their role, which I think is hugely important. Because if we can de-skill the role of the care worker, it means that they can focus on what they love doing, and that's spending time with the residents and really engaging with them, and reducing a lot of the compliance risk, which I think if I was a care worker today thinking it's not a hugely well-paid job and there's a lot of compliance risk, if some of the systems can take that pressure away, I think the role of a care worker becomes a lot more exciting.
Absolutely. So, what's the future now of this joint venture, I'd say?
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunity. We're still planning that out at the moment. I think PCS has done a fantastic job. So 3,500 quickly growing to 4,000 care homes under their belt in the UK. So it's no small achievement. Oomph, since launching on demand, I think we're in 1,400 care homes in just under 2 years. So that's gone very, very well. I expect that to go to 2,000 minimum over the next sort of 6, 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
But then we've both PCS has got a footprint in Australia, so we'll be looking at how we can expand the Oomph business globally off the back of that their reach as well. But I think the more you look at it is sort of how do you improve the front end experience for a care worker and for a resident in a care home. At the moment, there's quite a lot of sort of innovation in the back office systems within care homes, but really the front of house stuff, what are people using every day to enrich someone's life? I think there's a lot of work that can be done there. I think we've seen people have done it really poorly as well, so there's a risk there. I think Access is an interesting organisation who have done some stuff, but it's not quite joined up as you might hope it to be. And I think here this is an opportunity to really get that right.
Mm-hmm. And I agree about the single sign on aspect and making it much more user friendlier from the front end rather than only focusing on the back end integration that I think your sector is still um, continuing to pursue. So we are waiting to hear more good news, innovation stories from this new big entity now, Ben.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I think the next bit of good news, which will come out, which is coming out right now, it'll be in the press this month, is Oomph has launched a significant module around care worker wellness as well. So obviously
mhm,
we've got a massive amount of content around resident wellness. We said, why stop there? If a care worker's logging into Oomph on demand and they're getting stuff for their residents, why can't they get stuff for their own health? So we've got
mm,
a huge module around mental health for care workers going live. We've partnered with a global telehealth platform called Teladoc, so they're the
mhm,
biggest in the world. And we've essentially bought the rights to one of their products for the UK, and I think that that's going to be a major thing. So I want to see a world where care workers get the support that they deserve. I think it's absolutely crazy that care workers who spend their life caring for people don't have enough infrastructure that cares for them.
mm.
That's a massive point, and I think, as you're saying, working on those two sides at the same time would really enrich the proposition that everybody's going to be met at when locking into the system, the joined up system. Even that would be fantastic. And I agree with your point made about some of the solutions that are in the marketplace right now, where you'd expect a lot more in return working in those organizations and a lot more givens here and there,
Mm,
freebies in terms of, yeah, either your user wandering across the systems, or just all together seeing that you are offered the kind of value in return that you put into the system, where the feedback at the moment is for some of those solutions out there that it's simply not the way it's sold to them. And that's,
mm.
of course, a massive problem because the sector right now is at a point of no return. This is going to happen. So if we come out with stuff that isn't joined up the proper way and doesn't provide, as you say, Sang, a good user experience, then it's dire. It's going to not meet the demands of the sector. So really good to
Well,
hear.
I use an example, and this is a moonshot, so it certainly doesn't exist today. But take mandatory e-learning. It's just a really simple example. Mandatory e-learning delivered. Let's say they do their refresher training once a year. Best case scenario, they've done something around falls prevention, or they've done something around manual handling, or dealing with pressure ulcers. Okay, you haven't dealt with that issue for 11 months, and then you need to deal with that issue. One of a number of things can happen. You might get it right. I mean, that'd be
Mm,
fantastic. You may have forgotten how to deal with a pressure ulcer, and then how do you manage that? Who do you speak to? There's anxiety raising. I should know, but I don't know.
Mm.
I might give it a shot and get it wrong. So there's a number of issues there, right?
Yeah.
Um, but actually, in a joined up system where you've got integration into care planning software, if we know that somebody's going to see Ben and Ben's got a pressure ulcer, why isn't there a 60-second or 120-second reminder video? This is how you manage a pressure ulcer at that point in time refresher training. And that comes
mm.
from a joined up system rather than having care planning software over there and e learning over there. That's the opportunity to bring the thing together, and that enriches the experience for the care worker and reduces the risk for the resident themselves.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with that. And as you know, we have that facility in Sequoia as well, where you can, on a task or an activity, you can add that type of content to it. What I find to be the most hard part on the implementation of that is really to have vetted type of content. And for that, you're already doing stuff where you're saying, well, actually, either we're working with a partner for that, or we are ourselves creating content that's of a proper value. So you've got
Exactly.
that side of business too.
And I think there's a compliance issue as well around sort of the mandatory training, because you've got your mandatory training saying something different to what the just-in-time refresher training says. There's an inherent risk there, so
Yeah.
that's why I think the whole thing needs to be joined together really tightly. So there isn't any contradictory information.
True. And, the world is moving towards on demand learning. These days, if we have to fix something, learn something, we quickly find what's the quickest and easiest way to do that and learn that. And we still don't have that kind of ability well integrated into our workplace in social care, which I think we need to move towards. Now, one question for you. Are you a tech entrepreneur, Ben?
Am I a tech entrepreneur? I really don't think so. I think I'm entrepreneurial for sure. But if you look at Um's journey, we've been a exercise company, we've been a training company, we've been a transport company. We're now a technology company. I believe in trying to solve problems, and I think that we tried to solve the problem of exercise for older people. Less than 3% of older people meeting the World Health Organization guidelines there. I think I've tried to solve the problem of transport. Less than half of people in a care home ever gets to go outside again once they move in. And now the technology issue, which is how do you actually get high quality content into the hands of care workers to improve their work and life experience. So I think there are a number of massive problems in the care sector that need to be solved. Ultimately, I would say it's solve any one of the all of them at all, but that's where my passion is how you just solve that problem. I'm not so. I wouldn't say I'm hugely driven by. I'm hugely financially driven on a day-to-day basis. I think I want to be known for solving a big problem in the care sector, and that's what I've been trying to do.
That's
Brilliant.
great. That's really great to hear. So, if I can unpick that a little bit, so moving between these tools, I would say, to solve problem, I would use technology as a tool in your entrepreneurial journey. What was the biggest challenge that you
Okay, so
faced?
COVID was a pretty big challenge for us. I mean, you got to take into account that going into COVID, we went from a business which had 30 minibuses, 60 drivers. The training business had 20 trainers, physical trainers going into care homes. At the point of COVID, we were raising investment. So we signed heads of terms. We were raising a lot of money to grow from 30 buses to 100 buses. And the deal was there. So that was mid February prior to COVID. 2 weeks later, the deal falls through. 2 weeks after that, I need to make 90 people redundant because furlough wasn't invented at this time. The business had liabilities about three, fourfold what we had cash in the bank, and it was that was proper stress. That was a proper problem. So not only were we having to think about what is the solution over COVID for the residents of care homes, is how do we keep the business alive? So in daily meetings with administrators saying, are we going to be able to get through this? And convincing them, oh, we just need to hold out, we need to wait, we need to wait. And every day we waited, we managed to solve a problem, solve a problem, solve a problem, until we managed to iterate our way out of a really difficult situation. Obviously, then it became the technology challenge, which is how do you build a minimum viable product to go and prove that this idea that we had legs.
Mm.
Fortunately, we built a £25,000 MVP and sold it to just under 1,000 care homes, and that obviously gave us a pretty good use case. And then we went and actually self-funded alongside a grant the version 2 of the platform that integrated into the care planning software. So, and that I mean the new product that we got is unusually good. I think from my perspective, not being a technical founder, the key to that is having really good people. So we brought on board. I've had for a long time. I've had a fantastic CFO stroke COO called Ian Taylor. He's absolutely brilliant. So he really had a tight handle on the finance side. But then we brought Stephen Embleton across from My Learning Cloud. So Stephen had founded My Learning Cloud, a big e-learning company, grown it really well to 250,000 learners a day, and was wanting a change. So he came over to us and was able to manage the technical development of the business. So I think to answer your question, I think one of the we've gone through very difficult times in that period. I'm certainly not a micromanager, so I believe in hiring great people and letting them get on with the job.
Mm.
Um, and if you let great people get on with the job, then hopefully you get it right more times than you get it wrong.
Absolutely. There's no point hiring great people and telling them what to do.
No, 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 absolutely. And I consider myself bang average. So it's important to realise that you're not the brightest person in the room. Actually, pretty much the opposite in most cases. Well,
But I really like how you define yourself. I mean, in terms of action. And I was reading a news article or a background article about entrepreneurship just the other day, and I think the one thing that they could define was you can easily see if someone's an entrepreneur in any way if they do this when encountering a problem, they run towards it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you've just described. And then whatever means or tools, or if it's tech or non-tech, it's not really important. It's about solving that problem that's in front of you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people try to come up with like, the beautiful solution, and then, they're trying to play the beautiful game. But actually, what's worth remembering is the beautiful game doesn't really exist. It's quite a lot of grit, hard work, determination, and a lot of mistakes are made, and trying to learn from those mistakes as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and that's what entrepreneurship is in essence, isn't it? It's not the jazzy, fun, what other people think the world is, but it's more the resilience and not falling over and trying to push and walking towards the problem. Thanks so much, Ben. There, I have two last questions for you, and
Okay.
one of them we have both these questions we are trying a little bit different format from our previous seasons. So in this season, we are asking one question, which is, what are your forecasts or predictions for next 12 months for social care?
Oh, well, I think fortunately, I think that's not such a difficult question to answer because of all of the ICS funding out there. I think there's going to be a radical adoption of technology. I think one of the challenges to that will be that it's an unsophisticated market, and a lot of people will make a decision just because there's a list of care planning companies and it's funded. ABC will just
Mm,
take that. So I think it becomes with challenges as well. There might be some poor purchasing decisions. But I
mm,
think this drive towards adoption of care planning software will dominate the sector over the next 12 months. I think there'll be a consolidation of certainly on the supply side of the other tech companies. So I imagine there'll be some winners and some losers there,
mm.
as the market consolidates. Obviously, I plan to be on the winning side of that, and and then from a care home perspective, I expect that there's going to be a consolidation there as well. I think we maybe won't
Mm,
see that so much over the next 12 months, but that's going to become a more and more real issue as staffing pressures
yeah.
get more serious.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one question for you, which was asked by your previous guest, and they said, "Let me let me see." They said, "What is the hardest part of your job?"
What's the hardest part of my job? It's a good question. I think the hardest part of my job is I think probably it is learning to let go. I think overall, I think when on a what I find quite difficult is, well, maybe that's not the right answer. I think the hardest part of the job is when you're working, when you're facing real. Obviously, I've faced a lot of challenges, so there's been lots of hard things about the job. So, but that's quite specific around COVID. There are lots of parts of the job that I don't like. Yeah, I'm just trying to have a think about that one. I think the hardest part of the job is I think if we go back to letting go, I think it's probably just learning that actually the Oomph as a business will become someone else's business over the next
Mm,
sort of couple of years, and I'll probably have a key role to play in that. But ultimately, it won't be my business anymore, and that is quite a hard thing when you've worked so hard to build something from Scarborough, literally door to door selling. I sold my car. I went round the houses selling this service. Um, so obviously, I've got a lot of not just sort of work attachment. Actually, it's a huge part of who I am.
mm.
So Oomph is me as much as I am Oomph. So
Yeah.
so I haven't just sold the business. I've sold a huge part of myself.
Mm.
And I'd say that at the moment, that's the hardest thing that I'm dealing with.
Now I can understand and appreciate that, because it's always counts back to your point that you said, letting go, and that's relevant for problems as well. Sometimes, when you are so attached to a problem, it's
Yeah.
very difficult to let go and say, okay, I'm not focusing on this because it's a
Mhm.
dead end.
Yeah.
kind of aspect. And likewise, when something is part of you and you've grown it completely from the start, and then having to not completely let go, but let go some part of it, or have someone else decide on its behalf is a journey in itself. But all the very best, Ben, and we really loved our conversation. Thank you for spending this time with us, and all the very best for future.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to be invited onto the show.
No, thank you. You take care.
We'll see you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, review, and share your favorite Take Care podcast with your friends and colleagues. Until we meet next week, take care.